Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Who to be a referee? Get him off, get him up. With a whistle and a little dried up pea. It's no protection for all the things they throw. Toilet rolls and bottles every time I blow.
Hello and welcome to episode 84 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. I'm Michael McColl.
I'm Steve Pandher.
I'm Zach Meisenheimer of Curva Collective.
I'm Jay Duke.
And I'm Lamothe.
And we're back for another roundtable. We haven't done a roundtable for a while. It's been tough for me to get out to the interior here in Langley, but I made the long trek today. Feel I'm almost in Alberta. Could be all the cowboy hats, not too sure about that. But we're in a pretty good mood after what's been a fairly successful season for Vancouver Whitecaps. But before we look at some of the highs and some of the lows, let's get talking about the elephant in the room.
Jay Duke.
He's put on a little bit of weight since his Playboy days are over. But no, let's look at the.
If you stop
game.
bringing in Timbits all the time, it wouldn't draw the podcast. It wouldn't be such a problem.
I kind of feel this podcast episode has been brought to you by diabetes. We have Timbits everywhere. We've got coffee. We've got
candy corn.
Yeah, it's one big party atmosphere. But something that wasn't a party, something which was very depressing, was the playoff defeat to Dallas. A week ago. Still hurts.
Yeah, the question I have for everybody on that one is, was it deserved considering how poorly they played in the first half, or do you think they got robbed because of the calls in the second half? Zach?
Yeah, I think we didn't play well in the first half, and I think so. I think it shows the character of the team. It shows the quality of our coaching staff, how they turn things around at the half, and so I think we were deserving based on our performance in the second half, and worth let's say at least going to extra time, if not winning the match outright.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the first half, I mean, it's a road game, it's playoffs, so you're going to take it cautiously. Maybe maybe you weren't up to the level you should have been or whatnot, but to turn it on in the second half, to hold on in the first half, which is essentially what they did, other than one poorly played. Like, it wasn't like Dallas was bombarding us. Mm-hmm. We just played poorly, but we still maintained a solid back line, and they weren't getting a lot of scoring chances. And then the second half, to me, was pretty dominant. Like, you're dominating a playoff team in their place, right? So to me, I thought they were the better team overall on the day.
What about the calls at the end, Jay? What do you think about those?
Well, yeah, I mean, to add to the point, I know Dallas was as well, but we were playing on short rest, and then you add in the travel, and you're playing away, and so that's kind of to be expected to go into a place and have a bit of a soft start, and it was a real gut punch to have that kind of call played. And I know, I mean, we'll probably all agree that it wasn't a penalty. I don't know, maybe some of you guys think it was a penalty. I certainly don't, and I've heard both sides, and I've tried to remain open. I listened to Jason DeVos blather on about why he thinks it's actually
3 seconds from the ball clearing the two players in front of him.
But Jason this is the thing.
Clearly watching Waston's eyes, and he clearly saw and had that good 3/100ths of a second to react.
I would even buy it if he said, if it came straight from, and I know it probably didn't even touch Gersh at all, but if it had, Gersh was jumping for the ball, and Waston's looking at it thinking, Gersh is heading this ball away.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as if the play came all the way from the end line where he's lining it up the whole time. He's going, oh, Gersh is getting to that ball. There he is. I'm not going to have to play this. And then he's moving his hands away. That's the opposite of a deliberate handball. That's the exact opposite of it. So it doesn't wash with me at all. And I also don't agree with the fact that, you can't call that at that time. It doesn't matter what the time is. It doesn't matter what the game is. If it's a handball, call it a handball. There's nobody around. He's obviously not trying to make contact with the call. It was a bad call, and it was a gut punch in a game that we were playing. Like the only team that was going to win was the Whitecaps.
The thing to me is if you watch a match and you take screenshots of the split seconds after a foul occurs in the box, and you see the player's reaction, you watch Dallas. The ball hits him. Everybody knows it hits him. Waston looks at Geiger. The two Dallas players in the screen continue playing. Like, neither one of them go, hoo-hoo, until after the whistle blows. And then I think it was Zach and Deli goes like, oh yeah, it's a penalty, right? So there's none of that, like, hits his hand and everybody goes, hey, it's a handball.
Not only that, but another thing that was brought up by a few people was, he was in the right position and he was just so darn decisive. Who cares if you're decisive if you're making the wrong call? Yeah.
People are pretty decisive when they commit suicide.
Yeah, right? It's like decisiveness. Who cares? Go take a minute.
Make it right.
Why doesn't he take a minute and go over to the assistant referee and
He's
say,
the best moron there is. He's the most decisive moron I've ever seen.
Go over and talk to your assistant referee. Go talk to your fourth official. See what they have to say about it.
I think one thing I haven't heard talked about yet is how the surface played a role in this. I think that Kendall is so used to playing on our high quality pitch at BC Place that he's used to the ball bouncing in a certain way, and on that atrocious surface in Dallas, it bounced up.
High school football.
Yeah, it bounced up in an awkward way and hit him there. One thing I will say, I know a lot of people are angry at Jason DeVos, and I understand that. I disagree with his perspective on this particular call, but I think he does know a lot about what's going on at our club, and people should probably listen to some of the things he's saying, because there's a lot of truth behind what he's saying about some other things.
All my problem is with what it almost seemed like DeVos was trying to backtrack and then couldn't, because in the broadcast right away he got it right. He got it absolutely right. He was decisive. He was in the right spot. And then a little bit later, like, everybody starts to, and even Wildman goes, that's pretty controversial. And he all of a sudden now it comes to the TSN FC podcast and stuff, and he kind of has to. He's not saying, "Oh, it was the right call again." He's going, "Well, he was decisive. He was in the right spot. He was, I've seen that call most of the time." So
that's a phrase I hate, because you can say that for anything. I've seen it called. I've seen that given, and it's like, if you watch enough football, you're going to see everything called. You're going to see everything given. So you just can't use that as an excuse. For me, it was never a penalty, because his arms aren't out. He's putting them back. Do you feel, though, that if Kendall hadn't actually moved, if he just stood still and not quickly pulled his arms away, it might not have been given? I know it's all speculation. No, do you think it just looked worse? Because
I think it was the looking at. The's the one angle from midfield, and he looks right at him and is like, "Are you really going to be a dick?" And Geiger's like, "Yep." And that was like, if he didn't look and just kept playing.
I agree with you, Goff. That for Geiger, I think, made him felt it was deliberate. Because that's the only way you can interpret
that. He maybe thinks, he's pulled that back, so maybe I didn't actually see it hit the arm. But the fact that he's done that, I'm not wanting to make an excuse for Geiger, because I think it was a stupid call. And you don't know what would have happened. They could have lost the game in extra time. They could have lost the game in penalties. But to go out after a season that they've done, after a 5-game stretch that they had to get into the playoffs, to go out like that, it's heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking for the players too, because if you saw the players after the game, they were
Yeah.
like wrenched on.
I should say too, when I watched it the first time, actually, I thought, okay, it's a legit penalty. It wasn't
See,
until
I
it wasn't until I watched it a million times on replay. And
I
I was
thought
like,
they were
okay.
calling a foul over with Gersh and
Yeah.
Perez, or it was Perez, right? That was there?
Yeah.
I thought they were calling a foul there.
El Diablo.
The one thing I will agree that and I know I kind of hammered on DeVos there, but what like he and some of the others were talking about after this is maybe this isn't necessarily Geiger's fault. Well, it is, but even if you think it wasn't Geiger's fault, maybe this is the rules' fault. Maybe there needs to be a better way to deal with a situation like this, because it's obvious. It's obvious that this is not. Nobody wants to see a game ended with such high stakes in the 84th minute or whatever it was, with a ball that was completely not dangerous at all. There was no Dallas player within 5 steps of him, and he was like on the 17th of the 18-yard box. 17th yard of the 18-yard box,
facing
to the left,
away.
facing away with a harmless ball. Nobody that's how is that punishment for the crime? How is that adequate?
Season.
Yeah,
No, but I mean, like in a sport, like you still need to be like there still needs to be consequences for your mistakes. And if he had deliberately played it with his hand, then it's a mistake he made, and it's a penalty. I mean, the whole
If the hand was
change
moving to the
rules.
ball, if the hand was moving to the
Yeah.
ball, then it's definitely a call. But when the hand's moving away from the ball, then it shouldn't be called. One other thing I was going to mention, we talked about going into the FC Dallas game. Was there a factor, talking about the first half and the slow start, was it a factor of maybe they felt like that run up to the playoffs, they accomplished the playoffs, everything was the playoffs. Because they accomplished that, was there kind of a letdown in that game at the first half? Do you think that played a part?
I personally don't think that was part of letdown. Like partly the reason for our performance in the first half. I think it had more to do with the travel, the quick turnaround, those kinds of things. I think what you're talking about, Steve, is more like a supporter or fan perspective or whatever. Like for all those players, I don't think there was any question.
Subconsciously, you don't know. You feel like you've reached a goal. Right?
Yeah, and it's
I've
hard.
accomplished it. We did it.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah, but when you listen to a bunch of them talk, they're like, "Yeah, we did this, but now we need to focus on the next goal." Like that's the sense I got from
that's the talk. But whenever you see other leagues and everything, when you just make the playoffs, that team really has nothing left to spare.
but the Whitecaps never looked in this run, and they never looked like a team that was just gonna scrape into the playoffs and barely.
They did fantastic. They've won most of the games and got results in most of the games. But I'm just saying that whole expenditure of energy, maybe
And
they just
that
had
might
nothing
be
left.
the only thing is that at the end of the game, against Colorado, when Kendall Waston put in the header, that was a playoff moment. That's a playoff game.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, the emotions would have just been absolutely enormous at that time. So would there be like you say, some subconscious effect, a little bit of drain on that adrenaline reserve that you have? Maybe, but I think it's more to do with the travel and the quick turnaround time, and which is why that slow start sort of happened.
But do you feel he put the right team out there? Like, if it turned out now that Pedro was injured, should he even have started if he had that injury? I know he's been talismanic this year, and it's like, if he doesn't play, the team doesn't play.
You have to wonder the psychological effect,
Yes.
though. Like, what would the team be thinking? Like, are they going to walk out there going, "Oh man, we've lost our guy," right? Like, is it going to have that impact? I think you have to. Even
But then it's
if you
when he
know he's
went
gonna get
off that they
45
started to
minutes.
click.
Maybe they
Then
should have
he
something
couldn't
else.
keep
That's
that.
true. Yeah.
But it also had to do with how the first half went, because he did get kicked all over the park.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I think that whatever
He started to say that on Monday, actually, and then
Yes.
changed what he was going to talk about what Castillo had done to him. And then in his brain, he must have thought, "Yeah, I won't even go down that," and he kind of changed the subject.
Yeah, but so I think that whatever state he came to the game in, I think that first half, his ability to play to his highest level was heavily impacted by the way he got kicked all over the field.
So the last thing I want to say about the Dallas game is I've given Ethan Sampson a lot of stick this season. I didn't think he was at MLS quality.
My hand's up there too.
Yeah.
Wait, is this a moment of repentance?
Yeah.
No, just for
No,
this
I'm
game.
not gonna
Confession.
repent.
Just for this game, I'll give him a pass.
People
Possibly,
mentioned
but-
that. I don't remember that.
I remember.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. Like, to come in, to not have played for weeks, And then to
Months.
come into months.
Possibly months.
And to come into that environment, I thought they would take the risk and put Harvey on the right and start Sam on the left. And when I saw the lineup, I was like, oh, geez, he was fantastic. And we're going to record a couple of podcasts tonight, and one of the things we're going to look at is who we should keep and who we shouldn't.
Out a couple times too. I wouldn't go fantastic. He played really.
He was
solidly.
solid.
He played, and he was playing against a player who should be turning.
Yeah.
But Castillo only beat him really badly.
I think
Twice.
I-
One time he cut it inside, and then somebody blocked it.
Based on Beitashore's play too this year, I think he might have turned Beitashoure in a couple of times.
And he certainly
what
would
I'm
have turned
saying.
Harvey on his off wing as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's not, you didn't lose anything by putting Ethan Sampson in. And I certainly thought when that came, I would have, no questions asked, put Sam on the left and put Harvey in on the right, and said, well, you know, an off wing Harvey is better than, you know, an on wing Sampson. And man, I was totally wrong. I thought that wouldn't have worked at all.
Well, and nobody's going to be scared next year going into CCL with Sampson and Sam starting against someone from
Costa Rica, Honduras.
Yeah.
I think the bigger flub was putting Gershon and
taking Tybert out. Yeah,
as much as I love Gershon, and I do think that he's the better player at that role, and I think he's the better tactical player for that game. You can't take a guy out who is so in form as Russell was before coming into that game and put in a guy who's just come off a long foot injury. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
One last thing. I've been thinking about this game and our 2 attempts at making a run for the MLS Cup. Well, how did you feel? If you compare this game to the LA game, I know everyone's like, okay, both the penalties we lost on. I felt heartbroken for Martin Beaujeu for just extending his arm and Landon Donovan falling down when he did that in that game. But those games themselves, I think, like Steve, you said, I feel like better about our performance against Dallas.
Sure.
But I almost feel like with that double chance that we missed against LA, the quality of chances we actually had in that LA game were a little bit overall higher than the actual quality of chances we had versus Dallas.
That may be true.
Rosales is off the crossbar. The
Rosales was a free kick
that Fernandez just missed sliding in on the cross there. Mane's shot from the left side that just missed the outside.
But the fact
now you're getting into facts.
But those podcast, man. Okay, so Rosales was a free kick, sure.
Watch the play. Mane comes in down the end line and cuts it in. Fernandez,
right,
when you talk about the turf,
yeah.
Fernandez's right foot gets caught in the grass. That's the difference in that game.
He
slides in. He knocks that ball.
That's more of like a half chance.
That's a goal.
But the problem is when he sees Rosales, he only sees green. That's all he sees.
That is true.
That's the only chance we had in LA other than the goal. We had 2 chances.
And we had a double chance. It was
the
right
break
there.
where the Ginger Whinger had the chance to put the
And
game.
Kenny missed the follow-up.
Yeah.
That's the one we're talking about.
And then they didn't come back
it's a
fast
double
enough.
chance, but it's just that one if they scored the first
The
one.
difference is, though, in that game is that LA was absolutely mopping the floor with us.
Yeah,
and that wasn't the case in Dallas.
True.
When we scored in LA, it was like, please hold on. Even when Dallas scored the first goal, it was like, don't worry about it.
Even when they scored the second, I thought we were going to get. I really thought we were going to get an equaliser. But
Steve, you need a sub?
Time just ran out. So time's run out in this part of this segment as well. So enough about the Dallas game. Before we talk anymore, we're going to play you some audio from training on Monday. The Whitecaps players did their final testing on Monday, and then they've all had their exit interviews this week. So a lot of the interviews are up on the Whitecaps website. You can hear from Pedro Morales, Carol Robinson, Jordan Harvey, and Andy O'Brien. But I had a couple of chats with some of the other journalists, with some other guys. I want to play 2 interviews just now. One with Sebastian Fernandez and one with Darren Mattocks. 2 strikers. Who knows if either or both of them are going to be here. Not Mattocks. But let's just see what the guys had to say. So here's Seba and Darren. So Seba, how have you found your first season in Major League Soccer?
I think was a great season for us. we a good tournament, but I think the last game, maybe we can win that match, but a little decision of the referee take us off, but was a great season. I think we did every game. We work hard and gave everything, and that's it. I think the next year will be better for us, for the team.
For you personally, how do you feel you have adjusted to the league?
I feel good. It's a very physical league. All teams play well. Every team try to play a strong team. Every team are strong, but I think I did well. I try to give everything that I have, and I think it was a positive year for me.
How does the level of play compare to the leagues that you've played in before? Is it better?
Yes, it's not better. It's different, in Mexico, the football is more slow than here, but it's not better or worse. It's different. Here, I think is similar to English football, more physically, more tackles, but it's good. I like this league. I think it's one of the best in the world right now.
You're on a 1-year loan, Seba. Do you want to be back next season?
Yeah, I would like to be here on the next season. I like come here the same team, the same group, because we had a great time here. I have friends in the locker room, and I would like to come back and they're here, but it's not depend of me,
Do you think you could come back on another loan?
Yeah. I think I can come back, but it's not depend of me. My manager will talk with the club, and after we will see what happens.
What are your thoughts on the overall season for Vancouver?
Definitely brought the club forward one step to where everyone wants to take this club. So I would say it's a good season.
And your overall opinion of your play this year?
I always think I could be better. Regardless of what.
Would you like to be back next year?
I love Vancouver.
Pardon?
I love Vancouver.
So yes?
Yeah.
All right.
There's obviously a lot of speculation with the expansion draft coming up about who they'll protect and who they won't. Are you concerned about that? Are you concerned about potentially being exposed?
As what you said, speculation. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
You haven't talked to them about, you haven't had your exit interview yet or anything?
We haven't had it yet, but as you said, it's speculation. So I'm not going to worry about people speculating.
What would you like to work on for next year?
Always can work on stuff. Movement, finishing, everything. Even if I scored a bunch of goals this season, I'm scoring, movement, all those stuff. A player needs to work on to get better over the time.
Do you think a change of scenery would help your career?
Come again?
Do you think a change of scenery, perhaps a new team, would help your career?
Vancouver's a great city. I love Vancouver. I love playing in the city.
Darren, you had that run earlier in the year. You had 3 and 4 games, 3 goals in 4, and you were feeling great. And then you had the little injury. How much do you think that affected your year this year?
Sometimes injury can take you a while to get back in, to get back to full fitness. And at the same time, Eric was doing good. At the end of the day, it's a team effort.
You going to beat Ferris and Kakuta in the exit testing here?
We were in separate groups, so hopefully they don't beat me.
You've had 3 seasons now in Major League Soccer. How have you found your time in the league?
Adapting. It's good. I'm always going to adapt. So next season is going to be the same thing. Keep getting better. Try the best to help the team move forward.
What's been the biggest challenge you've found moving from the college ranks to moving into the pro ranks?
It's tough because, like, you know, I'm getting chances wherever I play, you know. So I would say more consistent finishing. That's pretty much it. But as I said, if I scored a bunch of goals this season, finishes is something that every striker needs to work on.
Based on the personnel that was here this year, Darren, it seemed like 4-2-3-1 was the better setup for this team. But do you feel like you're more suited to playing with a strike partner?
It's tricky. You know what I mean? I've played with one strike partner and I did well. I played with two and I did well. And so whatever system is in place, and you just got to give your best effort.
You headed home to Jamaica for a little while, or after?
Let's see. You know, I'm not sure yet, but let's see what happens.
Any plans for any Jamaican TV interviews?
That's a good one.
So that was Darren Mattocks, and for the one thing we can definitely agree on, that he loves Vancouver. But will he be back this year? But before we talk about who's coming and who's going back, you guys, based on what the season looked like it was going to, what was going to occur at the beginning of the season to now, what are your overall thoughts on the season? Was it a success? Was it what you expected, or was it a failure?
I'm disappointed that we did not win the Voyageurs Cup.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah, I think the season. It's hard not to feel good about the season. It's not like other seasons where we've had like not a super great ending. Like the team goes out on a super great note. Like, you know, like Jay already said, like the Colorado match was this super massive high. So it's hard not to, in some ways, still be riding that high. I honestly, though, I think a failure to win the Voyageurs Cup is still like something that really, really bothers me, because it's a trophy. It's the best club in our country. It's the qualification to the Champions League. All these things. And like one of the things that bugs me about it is like people are like, and I've had a conversation with a person about this, but people are so like, oh, it was it was so great that we got playing minutes for the young players and they did okay. But like people, when you stop and analyze that, it was a win-win situation for them. You play the young players, and we don't go through, and it's like, oh look, we're developing players. Look, this player played well, or that player played well, or they all played well, which I think most people say in general, virtually all of them played really well. If they win, then you look like geniuses, and you look like you're so smart, and you gave them minutes and stuff.
So what's wrong with that? How is this bad?
How is it bad? I think had we, and I love some of those players that got minutes, but had we played more of our first team, I think we could have easily won the Voyageurs Cup this year.
The only point I'll make to that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, because I think this continual losing of the Voyageurs Cup in different ways is one of the most frustrating things. But let's say we win the Voyageurs Cup, but because of playing our first teamers, we dropped, 3 points overall in those games around the Voyageurs Cup. A win turns into a draw, and a draw turns into a loss. Now we've missed the playoffs. Maybe we didn't get enough points to win the Cascadia Cup. So all you have is the Voyageurs Cup now, and you don't have the Cascadia Cup, and you don't have the playoffs. Yeah, Robinson and the club prioritized how they wanted it to go. They said, this is our best chance of bringing home a whole bunch of trophies is to do it this way. And they fell short on the Voyageurs Cup, but they bled in some guys who they needed to use later.
Yeah, but the thing, I want to mention one thing about the Voyageurs Cup. Like that one too, you were talking about the FC Dallas game. I still think we got robbed in that. Yes. That one goal that was scored, that was a foul.
Absolutely.
And 100% foul, too.
Was that Cyprus player, Daniel Henry, who made that foul?
No, was it?
He scored the goal. I don't know if he made the foul.
No, I think it was something like Powell or something, the guy's name is.
But to also go with what Jay said, there's a good chance that in a Champions League campaign, then we would have lost points as well.
Okay, so here's the thing about both what you're both saying. that's one end of the spectrum. We win, and so whatever, we played our first team players, they're tired, we lose another game. But there's also the other side of that. You win the Voyageurs Cup.
Yeah.
You are Canada's champion, and you have a huge boost.
Canada's not even a
you have a
football
huge
nation.
boost of morale. You have Champions League, which bring allocation, which they would have for sure signed players.
Yeah,
they would for sure have signed players.
No.
Yes,
no,
they would have.
No, because
they would have.
The Whitecaps did not get Camilo's allocation money through.
No, they would have got allocation money for the
July.
Champions League.
Yeah, but no, they didn't get Camilo's money through until July, so that hasn't been spent. So even if they'd got more money for qualifying, they still wouldn't have spent it because they had money to spend that they didn't spend in July.
But regardless, they would have had money to spend.
They had money to spend, they didn't spend it.
But that's a whole other issue, Goff. That's the issue around them feeling burnt in the past in the mid-season window and just laying down a ridiculous flat-out policy saying we are not signing anyone because we haven't done well in the past, which was asinine.
They couldn't get the right player.
No, that's not the truth, and you know it. That's not the truth.
But they did go out and pick up Kendall Waston. So
but Waston was part of that whole. Waston was a part of that whole thing where he was signed. He was coming for free in January. The only reason they brought him now was because of the merit going down. They said, okay, we'll pay and we'll bring him now.
But they also brought in Mauro Rosales as well. And that was big in the attack and everything. That helped.
And you can't not love Mauro.
Going on. Other things
go
about
ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I appreciate what Mauro has brought to our team on the pitch, but I have a serious problem with where our culture's at in terms of just like. If you want supporter culture to develop, you need certain things to take hold within your supporters, and I think we have shown most people at the club don't care about that, and so that for me that's a problem. And so for supporters to stand up and say, yeah, for example, we don't want players who have played for Club X or Club Y, I think is an acceptable thing. I think this is how football works around the world.
So what you're saying is that you can't make blanket policies about stuff like bringing in players mid-season, but you can make blanket policies about signing players from rival teams. That's acceptable.
I'm saying that blanket policies, depending on the issue, yes. I think to say that blanket policies on anything. I'm not saying
a gray area.
No, I'm saying you're talking apples and oranges. That's very, very different.
Well, I lost all credibility on that when Labo became available because I totally wanted Labo to sign here when he would.
So how do you feel about Matthias Labo?
Yeah,
Zach?
he doesn't.
I don't have a
TFC right.
I don't have the hate for TFC.
You're such a plastic supporter.
Yeah.
Well, he is.
I'm from Ontario.
He is a
so
TFC fan.
I'm from Ontario, so
honestly, it is hard to hate TFC, right?
Because they're so bad.
But
but seriously,
I hate them.
That's like hating the town jester. Like, how do you?
You try to
he's
hate them
weird.
from those MLS Swangard days, and they were big bad MLS, and that was fun.
Seattle is our biggest rival. Whether people want to agree with that or not, they are our biggest rival.
Seattle?
Yes.
I don't know. I would argue Portland and Montreal based on a longer USL.
Yeah, for people from the USL, yes, of course. When we were playing Montreal 7, 8, 9 times a year, and Portland like 4, 5, 6 times a year, yeah, they were. Yeah. But I'd say historically, and in this 4-year window of MLS, that Seattle is by far the
So say Will Johnson wants to come back to play in Canada and end his days in Canada and wants to come and join the Whitecaps. Would you?
Why would he come back to a foreign country and want to play in his last days?
What about Darlington Nagby then? Let's just say he doesn't care about his green card anymore. And
again, you know the truth. You've already reported the truth of that story, and that had nothing to do with Darlington Nagby's feelings.
Would you welcome a Portland player? Is what I'm trying to say. And why then?
More so than a Seattle player, sure.
If you feel like this, why then are you such a supporter of Michael Nanchov going to play for a rival team?
Yeah.
What if our players went to play for Seattle? Let's say Christian Dean went to play for Seattle. Would you cheer him on?
To me, Seattle and Portland are different. First off, and so and I think it's different. It's different for him being here first and then going there.
That's a Portland love.
There's a massive.
I have a big problem with this Portland love in general. The whole Vancouver Southside or Timber Army stuff. I'm opposed to this, man.
They're the great unwashed.
It's like the patchouli mushroom smell. They stink.
They think they have the best beer in the world,
Seriously,
and it's like just mediocre.
They queue up for
They
2
line up for
days.
donuts.
Yeah, well, I do that. I can't really can't criticise them for that. But they line up for 2 days to get into a game. They're not right in the head. That's just not normal behaviour. Admittedly, none of them work, so they can't do that.
They do also have the highest per capita of strip joints in North America.
Yeah, but that'd be fun.
And they filmed Grim there.
This is... I was scared away by some of the
women
photos.
off the street. That's how they solve their homeless problem. Hey, you're a stripper now.
No, but to me, there's a difference between Seattle and Portland.
Why is that? I need to know.
I do hate Seattle.
I think we should talk that on a round table.
Okay, want to keep going? With this just for a couple of minutes. I hate Seattle more.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Just because of the... But then, like, when I first moved over here, I was told about the hate between Vancouver and Portland because apparently they used to play in Celtic strips and they thought they were the dog's bollocks because they had this on all the support. But now people are saying that about Seattle, that they think they're better than everyone. They invented soccer. They invented never having won anything apart from this season. And...
Don't worry, they'll screw it up again too.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I hate Seattle more, and I think it is because they're closer to us, and just because they have a bigger fan base.
Yeah.
but you're chumming with the ECS because you've cheered games on with the ECS.
No, I have not. I've never cheered games
it's
on.
Getting weird.
I've never cheered games on.
You've been in bed with the ECS.
No, but
well, they weren't pleased with him when he took the Voyagers Cup on a tour of Seattle.
No, that's true.
It's Cascadia Cup.
Huh?
Cascadia Cup.
Cascadia Cup.
We've never won the Voyagers.
That's right.
Just
Sorry.
poke him some more with that fact.
No, for me, yeah, of course. I think this is all supporter culture stuff, but I think it comes back to like. For me, wanting to understand North American supporter culture and stuff, yeah, I've experienced different things in different cities, so that it's not just someone said on the internet they do it this way and therefore it must be right. We have problems in Vancouver because people have just said, this is what I think happened over here, therefore we're going to do this, and those things were not even based on fact. They were based on people's perceptions, which were dead wrong. And so for me, yeah, I've hung out with people in Portland, I've hung out with people in Seattle, I've hung out with people in Toronto, I've hung out with people in Montreal. I even took in, my family even took in a match at the back of the 1906 Ultras once in San Jose.
I like those guys.
My kids loved it.
I think they put on one of the best atmospheres in MLS. I know they get a bad rep and
they
maybe beat folk up randomly in the street, but... Take that aside.
No, but so for me,
all the criminal stuff aside, they're not bad people.
No, but so for me,
their songs were catchy.
They do have a lot of good songs. So for me, no, I think you for me, I have a relationship with some of these people, and because I want to understand where things are at in different places and know what I want to be a part of and how I can help Vancouver supporter culture grow and move forward in what I feel are meaningful and quality ways. And so, I mean, that's why Curva Collective exists. Like,
I don't know. I just think there should be more hate. No, you should hate everyone.
But there is hate. Like there is a level of respect.
2 hours before the game, through the game, and however buffer time after the game till everybody can simmer down. That should be pure hatred.
Yeah. I'm not for like, hey, let's all hang out at a pub like all the groups officially hang out at the pubs together or whatever. I'm okay. Like, yeah, I'll go connect with I'll go to the Railway Club after Portland's here to connect with some people I have friendships with. But I'm not like, hey, great game. You guys really, thanks for taking away 3 points and really glad you're here. No, it's like, it's good to see you, but I hate your team and I'm really angry at what just happened.
You know what for me, the best part of Mauro Rosales being rave green for however many, what was it, 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
3 years, moves to Chivas, comes back here. If we had won that game, as we should have in Dallas, and then for him to go down and score the clinching goal to push us through and to kiss the badge and salute the fans in the corner.
I don't think he would have kissed the badge.
Okay, he probably wouldn't have. But that would have felt even better for me as a fan. Like, this guy used to be Seattle, and now he's stuck a knife in you.
Not at all.
I would have liked that.
Mauro Rosales is on record as saying like Seattle is my club till I die, kind of thing. So like, do I want players like that in Vancouver?
I think that was
ideally not.
Slightly out of context.
No, I don't think at all it is out of context.
No, he was supposed to go back to Argentina and said, I this is my home. I feel so welcome.
Yeah. Which I know it was partly with the job, partly what you need to say
about Vancouver. Though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he said quite that much about Vancouver, but it's talking about like we always talk about identity when we get together, right? And so do we want our club to have an identity? Mm-hmm. Well, when you bring in USL era sounders like Sebastian Lamothe for a cup of coffee here, and you bring in like one of, the
only thing I would say to that though is that Rosales fits the identity that
you want.
Yes.
And what he has
done, I'll give you that.
What he's done with the youngsters has been fantastic. But enough of that. Let's get back to your thoughts on the season. So Jay, how do you look at the season? We got the playoffs, we got the Cascadia Cup, we clinched our Champions League spot next year. Who needs
It's a virtual Voyagers Cup. It's not the actual
Voyagers
but it's like you're holding it.
And the best thing about that is Ben Massey doesn't have to walk out and present it to us, so we don't have to see his ugly face.
We have to see it on TSN once in a while, though.
That's right, on the
True.
The face of Canadians women's national team soccer.
True.
Ben's a nice guy.
Yeah,
I agree.
I thought it was the Special Olympics he was advertising to start with, but turns out it was the women's soccer. So do you class that as a successful season?
Here's the thing that if you had gone, take it into perspective a little bit and take it back to day one of the season, we had, and even before we had lost, had signed Pedro Morales and Matthias Laba, everybody was predicting, even us fans who were like, well, I really hope, Darren Mattocks turns it around. We were all predicting a catastrophe, that this was going to, Camilo's left us. We got this, young coach is going to be all these learning curve for him. It's going to be so tough. And look what happened. Now, was losing the Voyagers Cup disappointing? Yeah, it was. But that wound is filled pretty quickly when you get into the playoffs, play well in the playoffs, win the Cascadia Cup, win some very big matches in there. And the most important point, I think, is that for once it seems like Robbo has a vision and a direction, and it seems like he knows what he's doing, and he's not just thinking about what's going to happen in the next 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. He's thinking about things a lot longer term. These young kids are getting in. They're playing well. They're all confident. Everybody's pulling in the same direction, and I think that's way different than has been since the Whitecaps have joined the MLS.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about this season is Robinson has been successful on the pitch, and I think he's also been he's dealt with players better. Like, I'll use an example of Kenny Miller. Kenny Miller wanted to go back to Scotland. He made that happen for him. Despite, it would have helped if he could have convinced him Kenny Miller to stay here. Nigel Reo-Coker seemed like he wanted out of Vancouver. He got him to California and brought more Rosales in there. Omar Salgado's Dick, he got him out of Vancouver. So in that, those three examples, there's probably other things too. But he's done it. But he's done it on his terms, where he hasn't ruined the clubhouse or anything in achieving goals.
I think I agree with you. I think part of Robbo's success. I think Robbo's success for me comes with two things. One is he was here for 2 years before this as an assistant coach, and he got to understand the club and how it functions, both for the better and for the worse. And he got to understand that at least at some level. And two, he is an incredibly honest fellow. And I think, and I'm not saying our other managers haven't, because I would say the same of Martin Rennie and Tater, actually. Whether or not,
I'm not so sure about Martin.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Well, yeah, okay.
Snake oil.
Okay, yeah, we'll differ, and you and I can talk about that some other time. But there was also then the other piece maybe to that is also how he communicated. And I think this goes back to actually to his understanding of how our club functions. Is he owned the decisions he made and let people know he was making decisions. So, for example, both Martin Rennie and I think Tater were both guys like, we're we guys. We as a club have done this. We as the club has done that. Whereas when you listen to Robbo talk, Robbo says, I did this and I did that. And usually I would say, I'm a part of a movement that's called the collective. Usually I'd rather it's saying we are doing this and we did that and whatever. But based on our club culture, I think he did something very smart by saying, I have done this and I have done that. So therefore he's accountable for the things that he did and things he didn't do. Whereas previous people were held accountable for things that were not necessarily all their decision.
And not only that, but the guy's got brass balls to be able to pull off some of the stuff that he's done, playing the kid, putting in some of the players like Keon's froze, putting him in Seattle, putting in Ethan Sampson in the playoff game. Like it was way easier just to go, well, Harvey did okay on the right side. Sam looked good. Let's just do that. That's a little safer. He did same thing with Kofi. I think he still got it wrong with Kofi, but he said, let's swing for the fences. Let's do it. And he's gone out there and he's been aggressive and he's been rewarded for it.
And the thing is with him, like you were saying too, Zach, that the way he talks about it, he's taking responsibility if something goes wrong. But in all his postgame, whenever something goes right, he's always ready to praise the players. He'll rarely ever throw the players under the bus, especially individually. He'll never do that. He'll collectively maybe, but not individually. So it's a big positive, and he's straightforward too. He won't mince words or anything when he's talking. He won't spin stuff and start talking about how great the crowd was or anything like that in a loss or whatever.
And Salamo, how would you sum up the season?
Well, it's hard to see it in any negative light when you think, it started with Camilo, John Furlong counter-suing and whatever, and Andre Lewis being drafted, and, it was a gong show, right? It was just a terrible start, and to jump in and go, okay, you're not starting from ground zero here, right? You're starting in a giant hole. And that's what Robo faced, right? That's day one. Welcome to the job. And he pulled it out of that. And I think, everything from that moment forward, from the moment of coming back from Mexico and going, this isn't happening, from that moment forward, everything was gold, right? Like, did he put a step wrong after that? I don't recall one. So I think it's a huge success. And it sets up the future well, right? And everybody, there's no hope. Right? There's confidence. There's no hope right now. There's actual confidence that something really good is going to happen in the off season. They're going to bring in a couple guys to score goals, and we're going to be competing for the top of the West.
I actually saw Hope last night. She was in court on TV.
Oh, did you get the pictures that I sent you there off her the leaked iCloud?
Yeah, they were really good.
So,
I like the Jennifer Lawrence ones as well.
So, quick question, just a straw poll. We did awards on the AFTN, and MVP was kind of split right down the middle.
Player of the year, MVP, so American.
Yeah, so whatever. Player POY, Player of the year.
Poi.
Poi.
Who's your poi?
Stop being so poi.
Jay, me, Michael have already discussed. Zach, who do you think it is? Pedro or Lava? Quickly.
Pedro or Lava?
Quickly. Why do I always say quickly to Zach?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
20 minutes later.
No, it's hard. It's hard to say that. To me, they're interconnected so much because you have the things that Matthias does.
Just pick one.
The things that Matthias did enabled Pedro to do what he did, and so I think it's fair to say that. Yeah, I my heart wants to say Matthias, but I think my head wants to say Pedro.
So
I'm going to agree because I think it's not a huge drop. Losing Matthias. I'm not saying it isn't a drop, and it is, and it would have a huge impact on the team because of what he brings to the team.
Yeah.
But losing Pedro and replacing him with who at the time, because you think Rosales is just here at the ending. So who are you replacing Pedro with, right? So I say, if you play Gersh instead of Matthias, it's not huge. It's significant, but not huge. You play I don't know, Hurtado instead of Morales, Mosqueda instead of Morales. You know, that's a huge.
That's an organizational fault, though. That's not Matthias
Lava's
fault.
on what we have and the way the team's set up, I have to say, Pedro.
And he, like I said, he contributed for more than 50% of the goals. It was in on him, assist-wise, goal-wise, and with not a true striker, that's pretty big for like a creative guy to do.
How did Predictable Pooch choose Pedro Morales?
Balls.
Balls.
Always balls.
So those were a couple.
I personally went for Lava just because I thought he was more consistent over the course of the season. Just my quick thoughts on like the overall season. When I turned up at training camp the last week of January, it was scary because it was all these residency guys. It was Mitch Perreault, who's excelled this year and he'll be good to watch next year, and Bustos and Froze and Sam and Adam Mena was there, and all these draft picks that we were allowed to have there were there, and the folk that had passports and visas, those guys were there. And you looked around and you're like, geez, this looks scary. You've got Tubby Nigel running around looking like so overweight, and you're just thinking this is going to be a season from hell. It's just been fantastic. And I think to do it, that they won something or they achieved something for 3 weeks in a row. Cascadia Cup, Champions League spot, and then playoffs. That was just one of the best ends to a season I've ever had watching football. So that's all for our brief thoughts on the season. We'll have more of that in next week's podcast.
So those Player of the Year questions were just little warm-ups for our next segment, which is going to be
30 Seconds to Mars!
I need a Mars bar, hey Riggs bar, to help me through the day. I need a Mars bar, a potato bar, it helps me, makes me work as to play.
So for anyone that hasn't heard the podcast before, I'm not quite sure what's wrong with you, but we'll explain what 30 Seconds to Mars is. This is our special quiz show element where the winners can actually win a Mars bar. We're going to ask them 3 questions this podcast, 3 next podcast. Whoever gets the most points, as judged by me, is making the most sense. So basically you have to agree with me. Will get a point. Whoever gets the most points at the end will win the coveted Mars bar. Now, budget has been cut a little bit on the podcast. Instead of a king-size Mars bar, we've just got a little fun-size mini. So we're going to ask 3... Silence. So we're going to ask 3 questions. Steve will ask the questions. I will do the scoring. You have 30 seconds and 30 seconds only. We will cut you off. Zach, I'm looking at you. And question 1.
And just a reminder, you said a point per question. It's actually you get multiple points per question.
Like however many decent points you make, I will reward some points.
Yes.
What do we have a good ding this time?
I don't have a ding because it seems to really mess up my stuff. So
can you fix it in post or something like that?
No.
In post, we need post.
But then they can't hear your fingers though.
No. You know? I'll make some noise. You'll know.
Can you make an individual noise for each one of us?
I will do animal impressions. Any request what animal you would be?
Why don't you pick the animal that's most like us?
Oh, jeez.
And that's the noise you make for each one, and surprise us.
Okay, that sounds fun.
No, make sure you don't get distracted by the noises because you only have 30 seconds.
I'm just wondering if you know what a hippo sounds like. That's my question. I think that's close. That's close enough.
Okay, so first question, and the starting off will be Jay.
Oh, God, I hate starting off.
Well, everybody's going to have a turn to start off.
I know, it's just I'm under pressure.
So, the best in-season acquisition, and your options are Kendall Waston.
You can stop there.
Mauro Rosales. Or is it addition by subtraction of Omar Salgado? Go.
I mean, Mauro was great. He did some amazing things for the club as far as organizing our attack and leadership of the young players, providing some creativity when Pedro wasn't on his game. However, it's got to be Kendall Waston. Even with the goals that he scored, the timely goals that he scored from a place that we've never had any success at set pieces, and he's been that physical presence at the end in defense that we haven't seen in MLS.
to give him work after the 30-second.
Well, you let him talk, so he's going to get it. So that was 7 points for Jay. So for the other two, if you just, as a little note, if you do praise Mauro Rosales, you will get points.
Why don't you give me the heads up?
Well, you
we clue in when he's first. You said his name. I could just say Mauro Rosales.
So Slavo, same question to you.
Okay, well, I'm going to use the same theory I used with Pedro and what's his name in the other question. So I'm going to say that it's Mauro Rosales because Kendall Waston is less of a drop-off for Johnny Leveron, whereas Rosales changed the whole organization of the team, the way they moved defensively, the shape they kept. So should I be saying Mauro more often? These seems like good points to me. Anyway, Mauro created a chance for offense that was based on hope prior to his arrival. So that's a big point for me.
Oh, and 4 points there for Sloan. And that was meant to be a snake just because of this.
What was mine? A manatee or something?
That was your hippo. You wanted a hippo.
I didn't request it.
So Zach, question for you.
I have to say that it's Kendall Waston. Although Mauro Rosales did make some positive contributions to our side. No, Kendall Waston. I think the third of the season he was here for roughly. He brought a new dimension to our back line. We were dominant in the air in a way that we haven't been before, even with Andy and Mitch and other and Jay and Johnny at their best. I think that this idea that we have a possibility of scoring from a corner was incredibly amazing. The way he played Seattle away to help us win the Cascadia Cup was just immense. And for me, it was a reminder of 2008. I'm out. That was out of time?
That was 6 points, bizarrely, for not really mentioning Mauro. And that was meant to be a bald eagle.
Is that what it was?
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So question 2. This time Slamo will be starting.
And for this time I will score by making the noises of fruit.
Noise of a fruit.
So Slamo, question to you. Who we talked about the biggest in-season addition. Who's the biggest in-season loss for roster-wise? Your options are Jay Demerit, Kenny Miller, and the bike jerker, Nigel Riacour.
Okay, well, I got to go with Kenny Miller because he's Scottish and so is Michael. No, seriously, Kenny was. I think if we had Kenny the whole season long, he would have mentored the younger guys a little bit more, and maybe we would have produced more goals from them. And I think he would have obviously scored some goals. And I think his smartness with the game would have worked well with Pedro. And then when Mauro came in as well, I think they would have been opened up top and created a lot of chances that Kenny would have finished.
Bing! 5 points there. I decided to do pings. I was trying to squeeze an orange, but the noise wasn't really working.
Zach, your question to you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Slamo. It's definitely Kenny Miller. We're missing goal scoring, and we knew that we were going to need lots of help in goal scoring this year, and yet we couldn't make things work to keep Kenny here. So Kenny, the things that he brought for us was he brought an actual aerial threat up front. Kenny can score with his head, has scored with his head for us. New York away. He brought this desire to win. Like you read that interview when he left about the desire that needs to be there. He was a great mentor for the young players as well. Bing! And that's it, apparently.
And another 6 for Zach.
You can finish your point. We'll give you a couple seconds to finish your point. But just,
is that how it works?
Yeah.
So
he's making it up as he goes along. It's like the MLS here.
Yeah. Jay, question to you.
Talking about addition by subtraction, when Demerit left and Kendall Waston came in his place, I mean, it was so much better. It was so much better with Kendall in there. So we actually got better when Jay Demerit left, as opposed to when Kenny Miller left. The only reason we were still getting results was an unreal and unrealistic hot streak by our younger forwards. Bing, bing. And if it wasn't for if Miller was able to stay throughout the whole year, he would have been able to not just score those goals that Pedro sets up, but also hold the ball and create a lot more offense out of that.
Bing! And 5 for Jay there. So at the end of that round, Jay and Zach are tied in 12.
I'm so excited. I've never been in the league before.
9.
Okay, Third question.
Say Mar or Zach?
Yeah.
Zach, you will be starting. Now, obviously, we know that the Whitecaps finished in 5th place. Could have finished higher. But there were a few disappointing results in the season. What is your most disappointing result? Was it the 0-0 draw with Montreal after the World Cup break? Was it the 2-1 loss at home to Colorado? Or was it the loss to Chivas USA? The now defunct Chivas USA.
Or you could pick another.
Or yeah, if there's another one you have, but which was the one that you thought was most disappointing?
The 2-1 Colorado, that's with the Matthias handball?
Yeah, handball.
So, I'm going to say all of the above. I think they're all terrible.
That's cheating.
So
disqualified.
So the Colorado one ruined a great kind of beginning to the year. It was like this huge letdown. It was a bit ridiculous. Another ridiculous call there was no foul given and should have been called. Montreal during the World Cup. It was the first game we didn't sell out or something. It was just crazy how poorly we played against a team that was so bad. And then Chivas at home, again, Chivas, the goats, they're there to be slaughtered, and we did not slaughter them. The problem, the thing that this exposed, maybe not Colorado so much, but the things the other games exposed was the fact that we tended sometimes to play down to people's level.
I'll give you 4 for that. Steve doesn't really want to give you any.
Because he picked all 3 with this multiple choice.
Well, he's allowed to do that.
I chose D, all of the above.
Yeah.
There was no option.
You said choose other ones. I chose another one.
Choose other, not all. Okay, so Jay, second that question to you, disappointing loss.
I'm going to agree only in one part of your answer, and that's that all 3, because in a way it exposed, like you saying, exposed the fact that the Whitecaps were unable to play against teams who just shut her down, buckled down the hatches, and said, "Come at us." And we're way better at playing against teams who are good and playing football and going back and forth. The only thing I'll add to this is, of all those terrible games that we had, the Montreal loss was the worst. The Montreal 0-0 draw was the worst. They came off of a break against the worst team in the league. They were well rested. They were at home. That should have been an absolute drubbing.
Bing. I'll give you 5 there. So you're in the lead now with 17. So Slavo, if you can get 8 points here, you're going to go.
And you'll get 2 bonus points if you actually pick one team.
I did pick one in the end.
Go ahead, Slavo.
Well, I'm going to pick the Montreal one for sure, because not only did we lose that or draw that, but Montreal was the only team that actually produced a chance in that game, if I recall correctly. So we really laid an egg there. It was after the June, we had the 2-week break. We should have been ready to roll fresh. We had lost nothing for the World Cup other than Beta Shore. So I mean, we had all the potential there to put our stock into moving forward in victory and produce. I don't know what I'm saying.
That's good.
I'm getting into the playoffs with we were in that mid part of the season was what I know it's too late now.
We
were in the mid part of the season.
Right?
We were hot, and that would have started us off into the second half.
Was that the mid part of the season?
It was June. We just had the
Voyageurs Cup, then we
break.
might have just been on a high and not had a mid-season slump.
Or they would have been really tired. They would have lost a bunch.
No, because we had a 2-week break. No one was tired.
Well, that's the end of this first segment of this. We'll continue in the next podcast. We'll have part 2 of this.
I won.
How much does Simon get?
In the lead just now is Jay with 17 points.
You're going to find a way for me to lose.
Coming up Jay's rear is Zach with 16. And close behind Zach's rear is Slamo with 15. A fun-sized Mars bar between you.
So that was
skewer all 3.
So that was 30 Seconds to Mars.
I need a Mars bar, a rage bar to help me through the day. I need a Mars bar, a potato bar. It helps me, makes me work as than play. It helps me, makes me work as than play. It helps me, makes me work as than play. It helps me, makes me work as than play. Work, rest, and play.
So just before we wrap this episode of the podcast up, we're going to have 2 interactive sections that we've thrown open to Twitter. So the first one is we asked fans and readers and listeners If you could pick one song that was going to sum up the Whitecaps season, what would it be? So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think. I'll read some of the responses that we've had. Matthew DeCap at Elicent X, he said Summer Slowdown, which I don't even know if that is a song or not, because the season started fine and cooled off for a couple of months, but sizzled at the end. Christina at Mudcree, she said the Whitecaps, it's more like watching an opera. You've got the highs, lows, the falsetta, the eunuch. Not quite sure which player is the eunuch.
Certainly not Terry Dunfield.
No, certainly not. At the end, you've got the rapture. Or the happy ending. But that was maybe that massage I had in Korea time. Russell Beresford at Squad Player, he said Waiting for the Great Leap Forward, which is a Billy Bragg song. It was also the name of a Motherwell fanzine in the 80s and 90s, just for all you fanzine lovers out there. So that's me.
Fanzine fans?
Fanzine fans. He said Waiting for the Great Leap Forward because they failed to become mainstream in Vancouver sports by missing out on a home playoff game. Surrey Jack, who I always think sounds like a serial killer. I don't know if that is like a name of a serial killer, but that's at Mrs. Surrey Jack, so he has a wife. He or she said, Still haven't found what I'm looking for by U2. At Van Can Toon Fan, VCTF for short, he says Grinding Halt by The Cure. Jay Mayada at Cascadian Lion, he says Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
I get knocked down.
Very, very good. AFTN writer Aaron Campbell at AACamp81, he said On the Right Track by Pippin. I think he's just trying to show that he's down with the kids there, but not too sure. DJMK at home at DJMK76 said Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. And that is for, that player that shall not be named that is no longer here, but could score goals. I don't think he means Omar Salgado.
Long can, right?
Yeah, it could be Kenny Miller. Shoe Thief at Stuck on the Sofa, he said Brand New Cadillac by The Clash, and that was also for Camilo. Mark Daly at Mark J. Daly, who I believe does some other kind of podcast, he said some of the violent lyrics from Big Mouth Strikes Again by the Smiths summed up how he felt about the penalty award last week. And the last one from our listeners at Glass City FC said until they fix the striker situation, they are damaged goods by the Gang of Four, which could maybe be the committee, who knows. My choice I'll come back to. So Steve, what you set this question, so what's your song for this season?
I think the song I picked was Perfect Day by Lou Reed, because it was an enjoyable season, but sometimes you did need that hit of heroin to watch the team.
I chose an old Michael Jackson favorite, Smooth Criminal, because it was absolutely criminal the way that the season ended. We won't go into it any more than that, but even though I'm biased, I was incorrect.
Slamo.
I'm going to go with Plateau by Nirvana, and the reason being the words of the song are the history, reaching a plateau, working hard, enjoying the work while you're there, and then achieving, looking for a new plateau. And also because it has the lyrics, nothing on top but a bucket and mop, which I thought was kind of fitting as well.
I'll say Settle for Nothing by Rage Against the Machine. Because if you don't take action now, you'll settle for nothing later. You'll settle for nothing now, and you'll settle for nothing later.
Very good choices here. I'm going to go with Happy Days by The Shaman, because I think overall for the course of the season it was pretty much happy days, and looking into next year I think there's going to be a lot of happy endings. And just the last little thing just before we wrap this episode up, we're going to talk about this now because this is going to come out before the second leg of the playoff semi-finals. So I just want to get you all to tell me who do you think will win the MLS Cup? Who do you want to win the MLS Cup? And who don't you want to win the MLS Cup? So just quickly around the table. Steve.
Don't is easy at Seattle. Who I think will win the MLS Cup is tough, but I'll say RSL. And who I'd want to win the MLS Cup is RSL because that would make my preseason prediction correct.
Zach.
I'm surprised you guys don't want Seattle to win. You guys have a lot of Seattle love. Who I don't want to win, yeah, definitely would be Seattle. Who I want to win, yeah, I don't really want any of them to win. I guess maybe no. Hang on, no. Yeah, maybe RSL, little small provincial team there. Sure, let's say RSL.
Even after the little niggles between the two teams this year?
There's been niggles between every team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a very niggly team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus,
no one likes us, we don't care. Jay?
I don't want Seattle, obviously. Also, that would be my 1A. I think everybody... 1B, I'm going to say LA Galaxy. Just because, I'm just sick of them. I'm sick of them winning. I'm sick of them being good, which I suppose for them is good. I mean, I hope that Whitecaps are there one time and everybody hates us because we keep winning everything. But I hate LA.
The thing is, Landy Cake's going to walk off into the sunset.
I do not want that to happen.
It's made for that to happen, isn't it?
Oh, it's so I hope that. However, I do think they're going to win. I think LA will win. I just think they have too much talent up front. They're good defensively. Seattle's a little bit weak there. I think that's where that's going to come out in the end. Who I want to win, I'm a little bit with Zach. I don't really want anybody to win. If you made me pick, I don't know, DC United. I hate Eddie Johnson, so that's really hard to
and
pick
a former
on.
Whitecap will win it, a residency player.
But you know what? They used to be a really great club. They're kind of on hard times. I'd like them to get a new stadium and be a relevant club again. So I don't know. Maybe winning the MLS Cup would help them. They've done a lot over the year. I'm all right with that.
And they have quality supporters.
And they finally recovered from when Tommy Silwin was running the team.
Slamo.
Well, obviously Seattle to not win. And then New England are my other two choices, so that Tommy Sohn can get his... No, I'm just kidding. So, because honestly, I'm a big fan of Lee Nguyen from the time that he decided to come to MLS and the way he went about it. And
his cup of tea with us.
Yeah, and he was a class guy while he was here, other than one tweet.
Quick aside, my favourite tweet by Lee is still that one where he tweeted out that he couldn't find the television.
TV,
there was no TV in his room. And it's like, have you tried?
Well, that's the thing that... So when
maybe
he
got waived because of that.
So he's coming from a different culture, right? He doesn't even know where the freaking TV... Because I wrote that too at a certain point.
Yeah. So anyway, my answer is, obviously I don't want Seattle to win or Dallas, because... In some ways, it would be nice if Dallas went far, because we could say we got beat by the team that went far, but they're just so unlikable. And Seattle, we'd just never hear the end of it. I think LA will win it. I just think their class will come through. And I would like to see RSL. I kind of would like to see DC, but I feel that it has to be a Western team, otherwise folk will be like, hey, look, the Eastern Conference is really strong. But... let's just hear quickly what Kyle Robinson had to say when he was asked these three exact questions.
Who wins the MLS Cup this year?
Who do I want to win it, or who do I think will win it?
Both, get both answers.
Okay. I believe Los Angeles Galaxy will win it.
Who would you like to win it?
Do you know what? I'd like New York Red Bulls to win it this year.
And who don't you want to win it?
No comment, Michael. There you go. Okay.
So that was Robbo's thoughts there. Nice little ending to the show and the interview that we had with Robbo on Monday. Just some quick thoughts from our listeners. Atalison X doesn't want Dallas, the Sounders or LA Galaxy. So he kind of guesses that RSL. But he thinks DC United will win it. Greg Petrie at Erdum World. He wants Salt Lake to win because they build the club the right way. He doesn't want Seattle because he just wants to see what they'll do if they don't win again. Aaron Campbell thinks DC United, wants LA Galaxy, doesn't want Seattle. And Jay Mayade, he says anyone except Seattle. So we're down to aces. Which I just learned the other day, the C actually stands for club. And on that note, that's all for this episode of the podcast. So just quickly go around the table, tell everyone who you are and where they can find you online.
Steve Pandher, you can find me on Twitter at Whitecapsland.
Zachary out of Meisenheimer, Zachary AM on Twitter, and the movement is at Curva Collective.
I'm Jay Duke, and the at JAY_Duke on Twitter, and occasionally writing for AFTN.
Slamo at Slamo with 3 S's.
I'm Michael McColl. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. You can read all our stuff, AFTN on Canadian Soccer News, aftn.ca, canadiansoccernews.com. I'm also the beat reporter for the Whitecaps for MLSsoccer.com. So until next time, thanks for listening. Take care. Come on, anyone apart from Dallas and Seattle. And on the Caps.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Oh, everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.
10 minutes left. Yeah,